My full name is Randolph Duncan. I am the reptile keeper at Via Aquarium. I've been here for 7 years, but my reptile position started around 2018 when I started the reptile programs, and then in 2022, branching off into the exhibit side and working more behind the scenes with a larger collection for animal husbandry. So in 2017, I started off full-time as a touch tank educator, working with our 3 touch pools in the middle of our aquarium, where we have more of an interactive engagement with our guests with live animals. So we have a touch pool with invertebrates like sea stars and bushy crabs, and then we have a touch pool in the middle with freshwater fish, which are koi fish, and then our saltwater touch pool has our stingrays and sharks. So I would engage with the guests and talk about the marine life we have on exhibit that they can interact with, and then branch off and talk about the other exhibits we have at the aquarium at the time. I think right now, captive breeding, starting that last year with our green keel lizards, has been like a cool project. I always wanted to do captive breeding with a species on the IUCN list, and this was like a unique opportunity where I happened to have a pair of males and a female that were on exhibit, and do the husbandry not in like a squared off blank box, but actually build a bioactive exhibit where the animals are on display and observe their behavior, and then just let them naturally will stimulate their own breeding and mating behavior as they became sexually mature. So this was like a cool opportunity to watch this mating behavior and watch their social behavior as an animal and see where they're on the spectrum with their cognitive abilities. And then the difficult part is collecting the eggs and incubating them for about 3 months, and just kind of staring at the box for about 3 months and waiting for them to hatch, and raising animals at a young age from hatchling to near juvenile or adult size. And the hope with this captive breeding is to bring awareness of the species being fragmented, being like a fragment species population in East Africa, where they come from Tanzania and Kenya, and also bring awareness of the other species that are in their ecosystems, and then also help out on the captive breeding side, supplying animals to different accredited zoos and education facilities, and have animals that are not going from the pet trade into the zoological field, but actually going from one zoological facility to the next, and keep that lineage going as best as possible. The importance of that is sustainability and also conservation. We're not putting pressure on the wild populations, and also stimulating the need for the commercial market for the animals. A lot of zoos and aquariums were trying to push the captive breeding on the facility side. So we're relying on each other to almost like, it's like keeping a library of like living organisms, and we're keeping the condition of these books and then adding more copies of those books, I guess you could say, and adding it to their library or bookshelf, I guess you could say, in a weird symbolic way. So it's the importance of just keeping that conservation going and captive breeding as best as possible. And then maybe one day, if those species end up being functionally extinct in the wild, at least we have at least a record of the species in captivity that we could do starting reintroduction. And it's not just animals too, it's also fungi, invertebrates, and also plants, which is pretty cool. The zoos and aquariums are also working in that network as well with conservation. To keep these animals in captivity, it's more of like a sustainability. It's not that, of course, I think every keeper working with animals, wild animals in captivity, we want to see them in the wild, but it's also the drastic thing is that we are another species conflicting on their native ecosystems. And it's not just the animals that are getting infected, it's also the indigenous people from those areas that are infected. So the best alternative to this is to have like a One Health initiative, which is, the theory is educating the public about the animals that we have in captivity and do the conservation and breeding, and also educating the public that the public has a level of understanding and appreciation that we can now focus our funding into the wild populations, and also help those people that are affected as well of those ecosystems having these constraints or almost like disabilities or opportunities taken away from it. So it's not just like a very black and white, there's a lot of gray into it. And there's a lot of niches that different organizations are trying to put everything together. So the importance of the captive breeding or keeping animals in captivity is just bring awareness as best as possible in an ethical, moral standpoint, do the conservation and breeding, raising the funds, and doing the education engagement with the public locally. That's very important. And then we can take that research and understand if we have these animals and keeping all the records of them, bringing that to the local government. It could be the state government, then going to federal, and then doing the international part. People like to skip the steps and then go straight to the other place and not understand the culture or social dynamics. So the best part is to do the education where you're situated, and then build up that network. So even the thing too of like all that exotic animals that we have, we're also a lot of places are doing the native species. So it's the native populations of plants and animals and fungi that we're also trying to keep focus on that. So we're also trying to collaborate on that. So it's not just keeping all the crazy exotic animals from abroad. It's also working with the local stuff too. But it's a step process. As you have to build your way up to it to branch out more and make that spider web or branching effect into the I guess the education and conservation.
What would you rather work with, fish or reptiles?
I don't know. I'm an animal person. I'm an animal guy. So I enjoy the reptiles, but oh my goodness, if I had like the plumbing over in my exhibit area, I'd definitely add fish to it. So if I can do a mix of everything, I don't know. It's hard to pick one group. I enjoy my reptiles. I also don't like plumbing with water. So it's a mixed bag. I also have animals that are kind of like doing fish stuff. I have my mangrove monitors, which I have to clean their pool today. So that's like my fish, the closest I'm getting to a fish right now. So I guess, I don't know. I guess I have to pick reptiles for that question.